Have you ever driven to work and had this thought hit you out of nowhere? Am I the last person who still has a normal job? Like, it starts with one guy from college posting about his new LLC. Fine. Then it's your neighbor. Then your cousin. Then somehow 3 people in your own friend group are suddenly founders. And you're sitting there at your desk thinking, did I miss a memo? Is there something wrong with me? Or something wrong with them? My name is Hank, and I spend way too much time buried in economic data and labor reports, so you don't have to. And I'm going to tell you something right now. That feeling you're having, that mix of confusion and low-key anxiety, that is the correct response to what is actually happening, because the numbers are absolutely wild. In January 2026 alone, one single month, over 532,000 people filed paperwork to start a business. That is nearly double what used to be the normal baseline before 2020. And the Federal Reserve data shows the floor never came back down. This isn't a trend piece. This is not hustle culture. What I'm about to show you is a permanent government-verified restructuring of the American economy, and by the end of this video, you're going to see your paycheck, your career path, and your definition of financial security in a completely different way. Whether you want to start something or not, stay with me. Because the question isn't whether this revolution is real. The question is, which side of it are you on? Before COVID-19, America averaged 290,000 business applications per month. That was your benchmark. That was the rhythm your parents understood. That was the normal rate of people betting on themselves. That normal is dead. January 20 to 26 just recorded 532,319 applications. Why does that number matter to you? Because it's nearly double what used to be considered stable. This isn't a temporary spike. This is your new economic reality, whether you're ready for it or not. Here's the thing. Most people think this is just recovery from the pandemic. They're wrong. The Federal Reserve data shows a permanent step up from where the floor never dropped back. Your baseline just permanently shifted. Throughout 2024, applications averaged 430,000 monthly. Economists called it the new normal. They told you it had stabilized. They lied. January's 532,000 shatters that by over 100,000. You're not watching stabilization. You're watching wave 2 of the biggest voluntary workforce restructuring in your lifetime. Why should you care? Because the U.S. Treasury confirms business formation is 50% higher than any period in the previous decade. That's not noise. That's a structural shift in how people like you are choosing to survive. Even without seasonal adjustments, raw applications exceed 500,000 monthly. That means millions of people are requesting tax IDs and legally committing to entrepreneurship. Not as a hobby, as a calculated choice about economic freedom. You're living through the largest economic restructuring in generations. The question is, are you going to understand it or get left behind? Here's what you need to understand. Most of those 532,000 applications will fail. People file paperwork and quit. They lose interest. They realize they're not ready. But there's a subset that's different, and this is where it gets interesting for you. 147,516 are high-propensity business applications. These aren't side hustles. These are statistically likely to become real revenue-generating companies. Why does that matter to your future? Because these are the businesses that will either employ you or compete with you. And here's the shocking part. High-propensity applications grew 8.0% versus general growth of 7.2%. The serious operators are accelerating faster than the hobbyists. The gap is widening. Let me show you the intent signal you can't ignore. 39,191 applications indicated planned date for paying wages. Read that again. These people are planning to hire before they've made their first dollar. That's your future job market being built right now. Here's the thing. Corporate business applications hit 44,245. These aren't sole proprietorships. These are LLCs and S-Corp. Why? Because serious entrepreneurs know legal structure determines who keeps wealth and who loses it in lawsuits. The census now excludes internet retail from counts. They filtered out the drop shippers. That 147,000 is pure operational businesses. Construction, professional services, healthcare, industries that require capital, expertise, and commitment. 29,863 will become employer firms within 4 quarters. That's your competition for talent. That's your potential employer. That's the new economic landscape you're navigating. The South captured 235,000 applications. That's 44% of all the business activity. Nearly half the country's entrepreneurial energy is flowing to one region. Why should you care where this is happening? Because geography determines opportunity, and the opportunity is shifting away from where you might think. Here's the twist. The Midwest grew fastest at 10.1% month over month. The Rust Belt everyone wrote off is now the hottest entrepreneurial growth market in America. Why? Because displaced factory workers aren't waiting for corporate saviors. They're building their own way out. The South's dominance correlates directly with zero state income tax in Texas, Florida, Tennessee. Your take-home matters. Entrepreneurs are voting with their filings for places that let them keep more. But here's what's really happening. Remote workers relocated during COVID, kept their coastal salaries, and dropped their living costs 40%. Now they have capital to launch without debt. That's arbitrage. That's your playbook if you're paying attention. 3 distinct regions are surging simultaneously. This isn't a coastal phenomenon. This is nationwide, which means your local market is changing whether you're in Nebraska or Nevada. The old geographic advantages are disappearing. Your question should be, are you positioned where the growth is happening? In 2020, people filed because they lost jobs. It was panic. It was, I have no choice. 2026 is different, and you need to understand why. People are leaving good jobs to build businesses. That's not desperation. That's confidence. Why would someone leave security for uncertainty? Because the definition of security you just changed. The Treasury calls these acts of hope. But here's what that really means for you. These people are betting their families' futures that ownership beats employment. 2/3 report being very optimistic about success. That's not delusion. That's calculated risk based on new math. Here's the thing. When jobs are plentiful, failure isn't fatal. Your insurance policy is the ability to get rehired. That safety net creates courage you didn't have in previous recessions. But the real game changer is AI. One person with AI does what required 5 employees in 2019. Why does that matter to you? Because the cost of starting just collapsed. You can automate accounting, marketing, customer service. Professional operations that cost 6 figures in payroll now cost hundreds monthly in software. Remote work eliminated office overhead. You launch with a laptop instead of a lease. The barrier to entry dropped from $50,000 to $5,000, and generational wealth is transferring. Boomers are dying or gifting early. That's trillions moving to younger people. Your generation has more seed capital than any in history. When costs drop and efficiency explodes, risk becomes rational. Millennials and Gen Z watch parents get destroyed by corporate layoffs. You see ownership is safer than employment. You inverted the equation. The question is, are you still playing by your parents' rules? Businesses started since 2019 create 70% of net new American jobs. Let that sink in. Your next job probably comes from a company that didn't exist 5 years ago. Here's why that matters. From January's applications alone, 29,863 will become employer firms within 4 quarters. If each hires 3 people, that's 90,000 jobs created from 1 month. From 1 month. Why should you care? Because these formations generate 43% of U.S. GDP, nearly a half the economy. And it's the growing half while Fortune 500 companies cut headcount. The census tracks actual tax payments through their longitudinal business database. These aren't ghost filings. These are real businesses paying real wages to real people like you. Construction, professional services, healthcare, where applications concentrate, are labor-intensive. They need crews. They need associates. They need staff. That's your job market. Here's the thing. The February data revision showed the surge was stronger than initially reported. Survival rates exceeded projections. These businesses are lasting longer than historical averages. An economy where 70% of jobs come from recent startups is fundamentally different than one dependent on corporate expansion. It's distributed. It's resilient. And it's the economy you're competing in. Are you building skills these businesses need? Every data point comes from IRS Form SS4 filings. These aren't surveys. These are legal documents with tax consequences. You can't fake this without committing federal crimes. Why does data quality matter to you? Because bad data leads to bad decisions. And this data is clean. The census transitioned to the 2022 North American Industry Classification System that captures modern digital industries your parents' generation that never saw. We're finally measuring your actual economy. By removing internet retail from high propensity counts, they filtered out dropshipping noise. That 147,000 represents real businesses with real operations. The 7.2% jump is seasonally adjusted. They already removed the January resolution effect. This growth is real. The Federal Reserve's BUSAPBGUNCUS series lets you verify TBM independently. The data is public. You can check it yourself. The census differentiates applications from formations, businesses actually operating and paying taxes. That prevents counting abandoned dreams. Here's the thing. February revisions showed the surge was stronger than reported. They corrected upward, not down. That's methodological honesty. Treasury, Federal Reserve, and Census all cite consistent numbers. Interagency alignment means the data is solid. You're watching a government-verified transformation. The numbers don't lie. Your economy fundamentally changed. Are you changing with it? Each application represents someone who looked at their family and decided to bet everything. These are kitchen table decisions with generational consequences. Why does that matter to you? Because these people are reshaping your community. In the Midwest, each new business means jobs for your neighbors, tax revenue for your schools, vitality returning to your town. For families excluded from corporate ladders, ownership is the only path to transferable wealth. A business becomes inheritance. Employment dies with you. Which are you building? High propensity concentration in healthcare means clinics forming where you live. Professional services means legal and accounting help becoming accessible without traveling to cities. Construction concentration means that infrastructure bets and local supply chains strengthening. Each contractor employs your neighbors. Here's the tension. 2/3 are optimistic, but 50% fail within 5 years. Behind statistics are families who either achieve freedom or face devastation. These are your neighbors leaving corporate jobs, immigrants investing savings, parents betting college funds. Whether you start a business or not, this affects your life. Your next job comes from these businesses. Your services come from them. This is your economy now, your generation's economy. The question isn't whether it's changing. The question is, are you positioning yourself for the world being built or the world that's dying? Your future self is watching. What are you going to do?